The rain hammered against the cracked windshield of Marcus Thompson's ancient Honda Civic as he pulled into the driveway of his modest rental house. His 8-year-old daughter Emma sat in the back seat, her school uniform still damp from their mad dash across the grocery store parking lot. The digital clock on the dashboard read 7:43 p.m., and Marcus felt the familiar weight of exhaustion settling into his bones. Another day of double shifts at the warehouse. Another evening of stretching $17 to cover dinner, gas, and whatever Emma might need for school tomorrow. This was his life now, 3 years after Sarah's death. 3 years of choosing between paying the electric bill on time or buying Emma new shoes. 3 years of being both mother and father to a little girl who still sometimes cried for the parent who would never come home. As Marcus fumbled with his keys at the front door, Emma tugged at his jacket. "Daddy, there's someone sitting on Mrs. Chen's porch." Marcus glanced toward the neighboring house, vacant since Mrs. Chen moved to Arizona 6 months ago. Through the sheets of rain, he could make out a hunched figure on the covered porch, barely visible in the darkness. His first instinct was to hurry Emma inside and mind his own business. He had enough problems without taking on someone else's. But then the figure shifted, and he saw it was an elderly woman, her silver hair plastered to her face, her thin frame shaking with cold. Marcus closed his eyes and sighed. Sarah would have already been crossing the yard. She had never been able to walk past suffering without stopping, a quality that had both frustrated and inspired him during their 10 years together. He felt Emma's small hand slip into his. "Is she okay, Daddy?" The concern in his daughter's voice made the decision for him. "Stay here for a second, sweetheart." Marcus jogged across the wet grass to the neighboring porch. Up close, the woman looked to be in her 70s, her expensive-looking coat now ruined by the rain, her leather handbag clutched against her chest. Her eyes, when she looked up at him, were sharp and alert despite her bedraggled appearance. "Ma'am, are you all right? Are you hurt?" The woman's voice, when she spoke, carried the remnants of refined elegance. "I seem to have gotten myself quite lost, young man. I was visiting a friend in this neighborhood, but I must have taken a wrong turn when I went for a walk. My phone died, and I'm afraid I don't remember the exact address." She tried to smile, but Marcus could see her lips were tinged blue. "I was just catching my breath before attempting to find my way back." Marcus glanced at his watch, then at the rain that showed no signs of stopping. "Ma'am, you'll catch pneumonia out here. Do you remember your friend's name? I can look them up, maybe drive you there." The woman's face fell slightly. "Margaret Holloway. But I'm not even certain I'm in the right neighborhood anymore. Everything looks different in the rain and dark." Marcus had lived in this working-class neighborhood for 2 years and had never heard that name. He pulled out his own phone, but a quick search yielded nothing. The woman noticed his hesitation. "It's quite all right. If you could just point me toward the main road, I'm sure I can find a taxi." She tried to stand but wavered, gripping the porch railing. The decision crystallized in Marcus's mind, and even as he made it, he could already hear the voice of caution warning him about inviting strangers into his home, about the danger, about the risk. But looking at this frail, lost woman, he saw his own grandmother, gone now for 5 years, and remembered all the times strangers had shown her kindness, when she'd gotten confused in her final years. "I can't let you wander around in this weather, ma'am. My daughter and I were just about to have dinner. Why don't you come inside, get warm and dry, and we'll figure out how to find your friend. I promise you'll be safe." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I couldn't possibly impose." "It's no imposition," Marcus said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. "Please." He helped the woman to her feet and guided her across the yard. Emma held the door open, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Emma, this is—" Marcus realized he didn't know the woman's name. "I'm Helen," the woman said softly, managing a genuine smile for the little girl. "And you must be Emma. Your father tells me you're about to have dinner." Inside the small living room, with its second-hand furniture and Emma's drawings taped to the walls, Helen looked impossibly out of place. Marcus could see now that beneath the rain damage, her clothes were of exceptional quality, her jewelry subtle but clearly expensive. Who was this woman, really? But those questions could wait. Let me get you a towel and some dry clothes. Emma, sweetheart, can you show Helen where the bathroom is? While Helen changed into an oversized sweatshirt and sweatpants that had belonged to Sarah, Marcus surveyed the contents of his refrigerator with growing dismay. He'd planned to make pasta with butter and the last of the Parmesan cheese, maybe steam the frozen vegetables. Not exactly a meal fit for a guest, but it would have to do. Emma set the small kitchen table while Marcus cooked, adding a third mismatched chair and placing their nicest glass, a mason jar that had once held jelly at Helen's spot. When Helen emerged from the bathroom, her silver hair combed back from her face, she looked 20 years younger and far more composed, but her eyes held something Marcus couldn't quite read, a mixture of gratitude and something else, something calculating. Over dinner, Helen ate with genuine appreciation, complimenting the simple meal in a way that made Emma beam with pride. "My daddy makes the best pasta," Emma announced. "He makes the best everything. He works really hard so we can have nice things." Marcus felt his cheeks warm. "Emma!" But Helen smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "I can see that. You're very lucky to have such a devoted father." Emma nodded enthusiastically. "He's the best daddy in the whole world. Mommy used to say he was her hero." The words hung in the air. Marcus saw the question form on Helen's face, the polite curiosity about Emma's mother. "My wife passed away 3 years ago," he said quietly. "Cancer." "I'm so sorry," Helen said, and the sympathy in her voice sounded genuine, earned. "It's just the two of us now, but we're doing okay." "Aren't we, Em?" Emma nodded, but Helen had seen the stack of bills on the counter, marked "Final Notice" in red letters. She'd noticed the patches on Marcus's work jacket, the way Emma's school uniform was slightly too small, the thermostat set to a temperature that suggested utility bills were a concern. After dinner, while Emma showed Helen her collection of library books, Marcus tried unsuccessfully to charge Helen's phone with every cable he owned. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "It's a newer model than I'm used to. The ports must be different." Helen waved off his concern. "It's quite all right. I've already imposed on your hospitality far too much. If you could just call me a taxi, I'll get out of your hair." But when Marcus called the 2 taxi companies that serviced their area, both told him it would be at least 2 hours, maybe more given the weather. Helen's face fell. "I'm so sorry to be such a burden." "You're not a burden," Marcus said firmly. "Look, it's already past Emma's bedtime. Why don't you stay the night? You can take my bed, I'll sleep on the couch. In the morning, with better weather and a charged phone, we'll get you sorted out." Helen protested, but weakly, and Marcus could see the exhaustion in her face. The truth was, the thought of sending this elderly woman out into the night made him feel sick. Whatever inconvenience it caused him was nothing compared to the potential danger she'd face. That night, after tucking Emma into bed and settling Helen in his room with fresh sheets and an extra blanket, Marcus lay on the lumpy couch staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow he was supposed to work both shifts again, which meant asking Mrs. Rodriguez next door to watch Emma after school. It meant another 16-hour day, another meager paycheck that wouldn't quite stretch far enough. He thought about the wealthy neighborhoods across town, about the people who lived there, who probably wouldn't have given someone like him the time of day. He wondered where Helen really came from, what circumstances had led her to his doorstep. Then he thought about Sarah, about her unwavering belief that kindness mattered more than comfort, that helping others was never the wrong choice, even when it was the harder one. He'd loved that about her, even when it had driven him crazy. Maybe Emma needed to see that kind of compassion, to learn that their circumstances didn't exempt them from being good people. The morning brought clear skies and an empty house. Marcus woke to the smell of coffee, which was strange because he'd run out of coffee 3 days ago. In the kitchen, he found Helen fully dressed in her own clothes, now dry and neatly pressed, somehow looking every inch the dignified woman. She must have been before the rain had found her. Emma sat at the table eating what appeared to be French toast, a breakfast Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd made. "I hope you don't mind," Helen said. "I found some bread and eggs, and I wanted to thank you properly for your hospitality." I also took the liberty of running to the corner store for coffee. I'm quite addicted to my morning cup." Marcus was about to ask how she'd gotten to the store without a car when there was a knock at the door. He opened it to find a man in an expensive suit carrying what looked like a briefcase. Behind him, a black Mercedes sat in the driveway. "Mr. Thompson?" "I'm James Carrington, Mrs. Whitmore's attorney and executive assistant. I've come to collect her." Mrs. Whitmore, not Helen. The pieces began to click into place with dizzying speed. "You're Helen Whitmore," Marcus said slowly, turning to face the woman in his kitchen. "The Helen Whitmore, the tech billionaire." Helen, Mrs. Whitmore, set down her coffee cup with a gentle clink. "I wondered if you'd recognize the name." "Most people do, eventually." Marcus felt dizzy. Helen Whitmore was a legend, one of the few women who'd built a technology empire from scratch in the 1980s, her company now worth billions. He'd seen her face in business magazines at the grocery store checkout, though he'd never paid much attention. "I don't understand. What were you doing lost in my neighborhood?" Helen's smile was enigmatic. "I was visiting a childhood friend who still lives in this area. Margaret Holloway, though she goes by Maggie now. When I went for a walk, I took more turns than I should have, and my phone died. Pride kept me from asking for help sooner than I should have." James, the assistant, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Whitmore, we should go. You have the board meeting at 10. But Helen held up a hand. "James, please transfer $50,000 to Mr. Thompson's account as a thank you for his hospitality." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "I can't accept that." "You can and you will," Helen said firmly. "You opened your home to a stranger when you had every reason not to. You fed me the little food you had. You gave me your own bed when I could see you were exhausted. That kind of unselfishness is rare, Mr. Thompson, rare and precious." "But I didn't do it for money," Marcus protested, feeling somehow insulted by the offer. "I did it because it was the right thing to do." Helen's smile widened. "I know. That's exactly why you deserve it. But the money is just the beginning." She turned to Emma, who had been watching with wide eyes. "Emma, your father is a remarkable man. Would you like him to be able to spend more time with you instead of working such long hours?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. "More than anything." Helen looked back at Marcus. "My company has been developing a new community initiative, funding small businesses in underserved areas, providing microloans and business mentorship. I'd like you to head the local branch. The salary is $150,000 a year, with full benefits, normal business hours, and the autonomy to make real differences in this community. You'd be perfect for it. Mr. Thompson, someone who understands what struggling families need because you've lived it." Marcus sat down heavily in a chair. "I'm a warehouse worker. I don't have a college degree. I barely finished high school." "You have something more valuable," Helen said. "You have compassion, integrity, and the kind of practical wisdom that comes from real experience. I've built my company on finding people with those qualities and training them in the technical skills they need. Say yes, Marcus. Let me give you the chance to build a better life for Emma while helping others build better lives for their families." Emma grabbed Marcus's hand. "Please, Daddy, say yes." Marcus looked at his daughter's hopeful face, at Helen's knowing smile, at James standing patiently by the door. He thought about last night's simple choice, about deciding to help someone in need despite having so little himself. He thought about Sarah and how proud she would be. "Yes," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Yes, I'll do it." What Marcus couldn't know then, wouldn't understand until years later, was that Helen Whitmore had been testing him from the moment he found her on that porch. She'd had her phone charged in her purse the entire time. James had been parked 2 blocks away, waiting for her call. She hadn't been lost at all. Helen Whitmore had spent 50 years building an empire, but she'd spent the last 5 years searching for people who embodied the values that mattered most to her, people who chose kindness over convenience, who helped others despite personal cost. She'd gotten lost in a dozen neighborhoods over those years, waiting to see who would pass by and who would stop. Marcus Thompson was the first person who'd invited her into his home, who'd given her his own bed, who'd shared his last meal with a stranger. As James drove Helen away that morning, she watched through the rear window as Marcus held Emma, both of them crying tears of relief and joy. "You're sure about him?" James asked. "Completely," Helen said. "He's exactly what we've been looking for." 6 months later, Marcus Thompson stood in a new office, overlooking a community centre that his program had helped fund. Emma's new school uniform fit perfectly. Their new apartment had heat that worked, and a refrigerator that was actually full. But more than that, Marcus spent his evenings with his daughter now, helping with homework and reading bedtime stories. He spent his days helping other families, other single parents, find their footing. And sometimes when he told Emma good night, he thought about that rainy evening when a lost old woman appeared on his neighbor's porch. He thought about the choice he'd made, not knowing it would change everything, making it simply because it was right. That was the lesson he hoped Emma would carry with her always. That kindness was never wasted, that helping others when you had the least to give was when it mattered most, and that sometimes, just sometimes, the universe found a way to reward those who chose compassion over comfort. The story of Marcus Thompson and Helen Whitmore became something of a legend, shared in business schools and community centers alike. But for Marcus, the real story wasn't about the money or the job. It was about the moment he looked at a stranger in need and saw another human being worth helping. Everything else was just details.